What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of You Guessed It. You can't make this BS up. I'm your host, Joel Davis. Hope everybody is been safe on all these storms that's been coming our way. I know everybody has experienced Helene in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Florida. I hope that the efforts over there are getting better. Also, the recent storm Milton, Hurricane Milton came through, and I hope that everyone's been safe there. Uh, it got my backyard. I showed a little bit of that. Uh, we were safe, thank God. Me and my family. Uh, any anytime you have a storm like this, you got to be thankful if you didn't lose any life. Also, too, I have to also credit the linemen and the uh, firefighters, the police officers that are working in these conditions, trying to save lives, trying to make sure that people are safe, the first responders, the nurses. Please believe you guys are appreciated. This is what we need during this time. Now, guys, I do have a Patreon now up. You can't make this BS up Patreon. It's going to direct you to where I have posts of recent crime. I also do extra podcast stories of crimes that I did not make it on my podcast, either because it's the season or because it's a little bit more jarring. I will also have other celebrity crimes that's happening in the Hollywood circles and also recent Hollywood updates, like on the Diddy case, that is a little bit too salacious to put with my regular podcast. So please do me a favor, check it out. You can't make this BS up uh, on Patreon. It's $5.99 to contribute. Like I said before, you will be entertained. It helps support the show. So, guys, we're continuing on our season of killer wives slash girlfriends who kill either for money, for love, or revenge. I think this is a good season. So far, so good. About last week's story, we talked about how that went down. This week, we will be talking about another one that I caught on Snap. This story here is very, very sad. Pains me to even talk about this story. This is coming out of East Point, Georgia. This is about the victim is Officer Crystal Parker, but she is murdered by her estranged wife, Danielle Parker. Guys, love is a beautiful thing. And I say it because when you're first in love, butterflies are in the air. And your whole goal in life is to find that special someone who can make you feel like you are the most important person in the world. But what happens when you have dedicated your time and energy in a relationship, a partnership, where you have nurtured everything you can nurture to encourage your partner to improve and to meet you halfway and above, but they still have not measured up? And when they don't measure up and you decide that it's time to exit the relationship, do that other partner have the right to lash out to the point that you could possibly lose your life? Do they have the point to be so selfish that they put their wants, their needs, and their desires above yours. That's what we're going to talk about in this case here. So, without further ado, we're going to go into the case about the world of Danielle Parker, how we got here, how we arrived to here. Danielle Parker, she was an outgoing and attractive woman. Now, Danielle loved to dress, she loved to show off, and that was her thing. She had a beautiful wife named Crystal. And let me show you Miss Crystal here. Give me one moment. Again, these images are fair use, fair use. And I'm putting it on the screen right now for you guys to see. Let's load it up. A beautiful wife, Crystal, on the left. Now, as I was saying, they were a loving couple, with Crystal being this notorious and well-known police officer in East Point, Georgia, out of Fulton County. It seems like everything was perfect. Now, Crystal loved helping people. She loved getting out in the community, uh, interacting with people together. They also seem like I said before, on the outside looking in, this perfect couple that a lot of people, especially in the LGBTQ plus community, wanted to be like. Now, Crystal on the left supported Danielle on the right on anything that she wanted to do in life. But unfortunately, their 6-year beautiful marriage will end in a tragic discovery. People will discover that Crystal had a bullet hole to the back of her head. And the whole Fulton County police force was very concerned that there was a cop killer at large. And the question was it someone from her past that she made an arrest or had an interaction with while being on the force, came back to settle the score? Was it someone that she had arrested a couple of times for minor violations? This was going through the thoughts of all her colleagues' head while they saw their precious Crystal laying there lifeless and was no longer going to be around with them. Man, that right there is a lot to take in. You know, you care about someone that you work with, y'all have a good relationship, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, they're actually gone. You may not see them ever again. I mean, that's just, man, that's a lot. Mm, 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 mm. But anyway, not only that, people was also wondering, would there be a witness that would come forward to give um, more light on what happened to Crystal's untimely death? And when this is all over, it's going to reveal a betrayal that led to a murder, a relationship that was over, but to the person that did this to her, did not think that. Anyway, East Point used to be a highly drug infested area, but because of Crystal Parker, age 34 at the time, that she was one of the police officers that were really influencing change in the area. Okay. As that East Point police officer, she patrolled the streets. She would help people. She liked getting into the community, interacting with people. And since she recently bought a house in East Point, she called it a home too. She lived in a suburb of it. She was very much a part of the community, and which she policed. Now, once in East Point, Crystal and her wife, 30-year-old Danielle Parker, had established a comfortable routine. Now, that is including a regular Sunday night dinner at home with an elderly friend. Every Sunday, she would come to Crystal's house and she would watch movies together. The Sunday was no different. But when the friend arrived that Sunday evening, she knew something was wrong because she noticed her friend door unlocked. She opened her front door so the back door completely, and when she saw the back door completely wide open, she asked if anybody was home. She received no response. Then that when she goes searching for Crystal, feeling something wasn't right. Why wasn't Crystal answering? And where was Crystal? The friend worry turned to fear as she moved deeper into the house and noted a disturbing odor. And to her horror, when Crystal's friend reached the master bedroom upstairs, she found that source of the odor. She's found Crystal on her bed with blood coming from her head. Crystal's friend called 911. There was nothing the first responders could do because the veteran police officer was dead. Crystal had a bullet hole to the back of her head, and it didn't appear to be self-inflicted. There wasn't a gun nearby, there wasn't a suicide note, and there was no indication of suicide. But if it wasn't a suicide, who would want the police officer dead? Was it a random home invasion or someone she arrested out of vengeance? And let me clarify too, guys. When people don't understand that when a body is deceased, like real talk, you got to remember something. There is a odor that you cannot ignore. Death has an odor. That's why they say it smells like death. Death has a distinct odor when a body is decomposing. It is the most rancid smell you will ever see in your life. Smell in your life. Because you literally are smelling that flesh break down. And it is a horrible, horrible smell. That's why you hear a lot of people say all the time, oh Lord, it smells like death in here. But man, I can't do that. Yeah, it's real. That yeah, that real. Definitely real. Oh Lord have mercy. Mm. A little tired tonight, y'all. Work with me. I'm trying to get back to my notes here. All right. So, as I was saying, was it a random home invasion or was it someone she arrested? Again, these are questions that her colleagues are trying to figure out. And right now, they got to find out the answers to this mystery because they got one of their East Point finest officers laying across upstairs in a bed, dead with a bullet hole in her head. Her wife is nowhere to be found, and an elderly friend is traumatized. But before we jump into the whole full investigation, we got to talk about the life of Danielle. How did the life of Crystal, how did Crystal arrive here? And we also got to go to the life of her wife, Danielle. How did she end up here? So we're going to start with Danielle first, and then we'll go on and tell you about Crystal. So Crystal's wife, Danielle, she was born in 1982. Now, her maiden name is Danielle Dixon. She grew up in Atlanta. She was raised by her single mother. Now, her mother worked really hard to give her the things that she needed. However, despite all the mother's support, Danielle was a timid, quiet child. She did not have confidence because she was on the heavy set side. And back then, being one of those early 80s babies, she didn't think she was attractive. She thought that she looked ugly and worn out. So she just was like, whatever. Then she also was carrying a big secret back then when you was a kid of the 80s. She was gay. That's right. She was a lesbian. And back then, in that era, as I was raised in that era in the 80s, okay, if you a kid from the 70s and 80s, if you was born in that era, it was really, really hard to tell someone that you was a part of that community. People still had all types of myths in their head about what to expect or how you would act. They went as far as thinking that, all gay people wanted anybody that they could turn gay, but it was never like that. They only want whoever is interested in them. Always remember that. As far as I've known the ones I've been around. Now, one thing about Danielle, she finally decided to come out in high school, which again, very brave during that time. That's real bravery. If you don't want to know what real bravery is. During that time, coming out during high school, you had to be brave. But her mother was very supportive with the newfound freedom to be herself. The formerly shy teen came out of her shell. She ended up losing all the weight, and so that gave her a ton of confidence. Now, Danielle newfound confidence soon got her notice too, because Danielle loved to dress. Like I said before, she was a fashionista. She loved to show off. That was her thing. When she put herself together, oh, she was a great, a beauty. But Danielle was happier, but she would soon be running with a wilder crowd and neglecting her high school classes. Danielle had stopped going to school, and as a result, she spent her late teens and early 20s bouncing between jobs and relationships. Danielle loved to have people around. Now, she loved to talk to people. She loved to socialize. She needed to have someone. She wanted attention on her. A lot of people like that. If they don't have that attention, they go nuts. And because of this, none of her relationships could last, right? Because she just did not want to share that spotlight. But in 2005, the 23-year-old was on her own and looking for a little attention. And that's when she met Crystal Parker in an Atlanta nightclub, almost 4 years older than Danielle. I want you to say, keep that in mind. This is a girl born in around about 78. All right. And she was also very competitive, especially with her twin brother. She was always taller than me, he said. She was faster than me. She taught me for me. She taught before me. She did everything before I did. But however, despite that rivalry, Crystal and her brother had always been close. So let's talk about what happened in 1978 during the time she was born in America, baby. What was going on for Crystal in 1978? So we're going to do 2 years, 1978 and 1982. Let's start with 1978. Fun facts and 78. So we're going to talk about that first. So 1978, we're going to, all right. So here we go. 1978, this was horrible. The Jonestown Massacre. If you don't know who that is, I will possibly be doing a podcast with him on my Patreon. Jim Jones. Jim Jones was this cult leader, and he taught everyone in Guyana to basically drink this poison Kool-Aid and commit a mass murder along with himself, because it was basically exposed that he was abusing his members. He was just doing all kinds of filthy things against all of his church followers. So yeah, he was definitely a piece of shit. Now, we also going to talk about the Women's Army Corps abolished. The Women's Army Corps was abolished and women were integrated into the regular army. That's because now women were not separate anymore. Let's see here. We want to talk about the first Home Depot was opened in Marietta, Georgia. Then we had the Dukes of Hazzard car jump. A stuntman on Georgia set of Duke of Hazzard launched the show's iconic automobile, a 1969 Dodge Charger named the General Lee. Yeah, it was a bad boy. I love that vehicle. And there was also Supervisor Harvey Milk and Mayor George Moscone was assassinated by Dan White in San Francisco. So that what happened in 1978. Now let's go into 1982. U.S. history. Yeah, we got to do that too right quick. Here's some of the things that happened. State of the Union. President Ronald Reagan gave his first State of the Union address discussing interest rate, tax structure, and a new partnership between the government and state and local government. The Weather Channel began airing on cable TV in the United States of America. Michael Jordan that year, North Carolina freshman, made a winning shot to give the Tar Heels a 63-62 win over Georgetown. That went all over the United States of America when he did that. USA Today, the first edition of USA Today, was published in 1982. Not to mention culture began. New changes began to take place in culture, sports, and entertainment landscape. You had David Letterman's late night talk show began, and there were big blockbusters in both film and music at that time. Also, you had the World's Fair that opened up in Knoxville, Tennessee, with an address by President Reagan. President Reagan did a lot of speaking back in the day. And then you had the San Francisco Bay Area storm. That was a major storm that caused widespread damage and death in California. And not to mention the economy was under a recession. The economy entered a recession in the third quarter of 1981, and unemployment grew to nearly 10% by 1982. And this was true. 1981 and 1982 was a hard time for America. The economy was very messed up. It was hard for people to get jobs. Yeah, it was it was really bad in the beginning of those 80s. So I had to get that, I got to give y'all a little that tidbit right quick. So that was quick history on what was going on in America. Can I get an applause, please? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now, okay, let's get back to the story here. Let's get back to what's going on. So, anyway, as I was saying, with her brother bragging about how Crystal competitiveness was, like in sports, they also talked about how she liked the girls. Now, Crystal came out during high school as well. She came out to a family and her brother. Now, her brother was mad not because she was gay. He was mad because she didn't tell him first. But he learned to accept it. I mean, I guess his sister probably told him, "Man, get over yourself." You know what I mean? There's certain things I want to keep to myself. But Crystal never hid her ability to be athletic. She was really skilled in pretty much every sport in school. When she was going to college, she was about to be preparing to be on basketball, maybe even make it to the WNBA. But things happened. Uh, Crystal started getting some symptoms that did not seem right, and come to find out, they discovered that she had lupus. I mean lupus, not Lucas, lupus. Now, for the next few years, having this type of disease, she had to go in and out of the hospital. She had to go through chemotherapy. She had to watch her blood plate level, things of that nature. And it did make an impact on her life. But you know what? Crystal held on. She got her degree. And after she got her degree from college, she decided that she wanted to attend the police academy. She went through the police academy with no problem. She had no flare ups doing physical training. Everything was good. Now, after around about October 2006, the 28-year-old Crystal took a job outside Atlanta patrolling a beat for the East Point police. She loved being a cop. That was her drive. It was soon after taking the job in East Point that Crystal spotted Danielle in the Atlanta nightclub. And when she wasn't working on duty as a police officer, she worked at one of the clubs in the East Point as security. Crystal saw her from across the room and said, "That is who I want to be with," and went and told her. Yo, man, I keep trying to tell y'all, no offense. That's why I got a lot of respect for a lot of female lesbians that's really out here like this, because they got some swag. Female lesbians got some swag, man. Some of these female lesbians will walk up to you. I got a couple female lesbian friends, man. They want a woman and they can read the room and they know they got that shot. They will go and let that swag go through the roof and get them. I'm telling you now. There's some that I know that whoa, that will turn a a a a straight woman in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? I'm just being 100 about it. Now, Crystal told her that she thinks she gorgeous. I want us to be together. I want to be with you. I want to be with you. And told her and said, yeah, I think you're gorgeous. She said, I want us to be together, and I want to talk to you. She did the whole nine, and Danielle left with her like, yeah, okay, you got confidence like that. I want to see what you about. And that's how they ended up being together. And within days, Danielle had moved in with the police officer. She always moved in with her girlfriend. That was something that was really important to her. But in addition to providing her with a place to live, Crystal showered her new girlfriend with expensive gifts. See, this is the thing about relationships, and I'm going to tell y'all this as we go further into this discussion of this podcast, the story. It's okay to show the woman you love, uh, and you want to, give her gifts and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, I think a lot of people don't understand is that once you start showering someone expensive gifts immediately after getting with them, they start to look at you as the type of person that always gonna do that no matter what. And they're not going to learn the whole thing about the boundaries of give or take. Oh, you got me an expensive gift. Let me give you a gift in return. And it don't have to be expensive. Okay, if the person you dealing with got more money than you do, you can still show the thought that counts. I mean, still get them something. Something simple as, I don't know, a ornament on their desk, or a freaking gift card to their favorite restaurant. Like, you gotta you want to make it where everybody is open to treating each other with gifts. Once it becomes one-sided like this, the relationship is already doomed. Never make it one-sided, man. Never make it one-sided. And I always say match gift energy with gift energy, because once you start doing too extravagant, that's when the lines get crossed, man. Believe me, I know. So anyway, now the brother said, his sister pretty much doted on Danielle. Now Danielle, they said, was devoted to Crystal. Danielle was catering to Crystal, making sure that food was done and making sure she had her lunch ready for work and things of that nature. She very much was the happy housewife of the relationship. And they say, happy wife, happy life, right? A year later, at Atlanta Pride Festival, and for a keynote, for some of you, I know y'all gonna say this is dumb. Don't put that in this podcast. But for some of you that do not know what a Pride Festival is, it is a time, usually around June, that the LGBTQ plus community get together and celebrate their sexuality of being who they are. It's been going on. I think it started sometime in the 70s. I want to say maybe, I think the 70s when it started. I could be wrong, but it's been going on for a long time. It originally started in San Francisco, and now it's all worldwide. That's why you hear people talk about Gay Pride Month. Yeah, that's what they're talking about. Now, during that festival, Crystal and Danielle made their uh, commitment of their relationship official. So they did something what you call like a civil union ceremony. Now, this was a relationship that, according to their vows, was until death do us part. And to further build a life together, Crystal helped Danielle get her GED and start a career. So Now those people that did that back then, they are actually full grown married now. They done had the real ceremonies and really married, based upon the state of Georgia. Now Danielle wanted to go to nursing school, and Crystal said, "I support you 100%. We're gonna make this happen." Now Crystal even paid for her to be enrolled in a training program to become a certified nursing assistant. Now, a certified nursing assistant is not the same as a nursing program. What they normally do is it's the bottom level of being a nurse. They do all of the grunt work that your LPNs and your RNs do not want to do. Example given, they feed the patients if they're unable to feed themselves. They clean up elderly people when they have accidents that are not able to clean themselves up. They're the ones that go and set up the catheters for the patient to be able to drain their bodily fluids out if they're not able to get it drained properly. They just do all of the work that nobody really wants to do. The gooey work. They do it. That's why they call them CNA. These jokers are powerful. So shout out to the CNA world. Now, Crystal was the one that was like, if you go to school, I got you. I handle all the bills. You don't have to worry about anything. Now, Crystal supported Danielle 100% because in her mind, this is a return on their investment for the future. I hold you down. You get through with school, and we're good. We can put this money together. You're making money as a nurse, and I want y'all to understand that this was about 10 to 15 years ago so far. Being a nurse back then, you was already making 70 to 80 grand. I think now the average nurse now makes about 100, 120,000 RN. So yeah, the money is there. So Crystal supported Danielle, like I said, 100% on whatever she wanted to do in life. Now, and in 2012, Danielle showed her appreciation and devotion by formally changing her last name to Parker. I'm so happy that she changed her name. Now, that's what Crystal said. Now, she was getting real like proud, you know. And not to mention now, Danielle was proud of Crystal too. Because in 2012 was a big year for Crystal's police career. She was also the year. She got promoted to corporal, which was huge, very huge, because that was her career. And if it wasn't enough to celebrate, the couple had recently purchased a home in East Point. It's a beautiful home and a really beautiful home inside and out. So they live in the American dream. And they were so excited. But although after years of patrolling at streets, Crystal knew that while East Point was on its way up, the community still faced the challenges. East Point had its fair share of crime, but Crystal and Danielle were prepared. The couple brought a shotgun and several pistols for home defense. Crystal was a protector by nature. Crystal also taught Danielle how to use them. In fact, she taught several of their friends too. And I think that's a good thing that she taught their friends how to protect themselves. Kudos to Crystal. Seemed like to me Crystal was really like Crystal would be the homie I could chill with. Like real talk. Crystal remind me of a lot of my lesbian homies that I could chill with, grab a beer with and talk about life because I know that with them they got my back. They got my six. You don't find too many people that have your six. So shout out to her, man. Crystal really sounded real good. Again, RIP to Crystal. She sounded like a real good soul. Now, one of the friends said she taught me how to aim. She taught me the gun safety. And yet, when put to the test, none of Crystal's precautions could stop her killer. So now the police are back to the scene. So we don't gave you some background now. They're trying to figure out where in the hell is Crystal? Is Danielle? Gotta find Danielle because this is supposed to be the wife of Crystal. Why isn't she around? Why can't we find her? So they gotta track down Danielle. So on July 7, 2013, a family friend called the police and reported that they found 34-year-old Crystal Parker dead in her East Point, Georgia home early Sunday. She would come to Crystal's house. She was upstairs to the bedroom and did find the victim deceased in her bed. It appeared that she had been murdered and Crystal's body was lying in the bed. So you got this bullet to her head, and based on the condition of the body, Crystal had been dead for several days. Her body had begun to decompose. But the biggest shock of all was when the East Point police arrived on scene and they immediately realized that the victim was one of their own. When police had lost one of their own prematurely. Now this investigation is gonna take a different turn now. Everyone definitely is on high alert because every detective and police officer feels as it could be them. That's right. Although, since the victim was a co-worker, the East Point police handed the case off to the Fulton County investigators. I came alert to it and was asked to assist on the case. And one of the first things they had to determine was whether the fact that Crystal was a cop had something to do with her death. But being a police officer, you can create so many enemies. There's a possibility that someone she arrested was angry at her and wanted to get back at her, broke into her home and shot her. That was a theory police had to explore. Or was she simply a random victim? Cut down by the senseless crime she spent her career fighting. Around this time, the area of East Point was suffering a rash of home burglaries. So the natural thought the police investigated was that this may have been a home invasion. However, once they realized the crime scenes, the investigate process the crime scene, the investigators realized that two things argue against the break-in. All right. So first, as far as the investigation could determine, the only two items of value that were missing was Crystal's phone and most importantly her service weapon. Now, guys, I want y'all to tell you something. This is where a lot of people don't understand how the police think. When you're doing a burglary, right? The police are used to you trying to get every expensive item you can find and put your hands on. A lot of these people that be trying to set up these elaborate crime scenes to try to throw off the police, they either leave the wallet behind, they want to take a cell phone only. Like the things they do don't make sense to make it where it look like it's a robbery. And I'm not telling people what to do. I mean, it's on you if you want to commit a crime or not. But I'm just saying that's how a lot of people get caught up. Okay. All right, give me 1 second here. Let me get back to what I was at. Okay, so they got to take an autopsy to see what killed her for sure, Crystal. They worried about her being killed with her own gun. So yeah, still a lot to go over. So they still trying to see if trying to go by the angle if it was somebody that was mad at her for arresting him. Now, like they said before, it looked like Crystal was caught off guard by her killer and raised only one possibility that could have happened. Now, the friend who found Crystal's body received an anxious call from Danielle. She was asking about Crystal because she had heard from another former friend that I guess that there was police presence at the address that she shared with her wife. And that's when the detectives told her about what happened to her husband. To her wife. She started sobbing on the phone and just literally just lost it. Now, she admitted to the police that they had actually broken up just before the incident took place. And as soon investigators found out that she and Krista had broken up 3 months before the murder, they asked Danielle to come in for a formal statement. Danielle Parker was number one on the list to be interviewed, and they took her statement. But we still got to figure out what happened to Crystal. So we're going to end it right here where Crystal gives her statement. This will be part 2 of the case where I will talk about Crystal actually getting justice due to the widening of the net to catch a killer. So until next time, I see y'all on part 2.